For centuries, Ojibwe families in this region have tapped maple trees in the spring and boiled the sap down to the precious sweet maple sugar. Local Ojibwe families continue this seasonal harvest of the treasured maple sugar today. Young people are being taught how to process the sap, and this important tradition is being passed on for future generations. Visit an Ojibwe sugar bush camp in Sawyer, Minnesota, and witness the honoring of the gift of the maple tree. Next on Album.
This time of year is the sugar bush time. This is spring, and this is the time we do it. And you can see that the snow is almost gone, and everything is starting now. The new life has started again. First thing we'd like to do is go to our elders and ask them, what should we do? How should we do it? Is there a certain way to tap a tree? And then they tell you right away to put out your tobacco to show the Great Spirit that you appease that tree, and because you're hurting the tree when you tap it, because you're drilling into that tree and you're putting a scar on that tree. Well, when you put that tobacco out, the Great Spirit sees that and heals that tree. We already done that here. The tobacco's already been put out. The kids from the Little Black Bear School, you had each class out here from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade, and they were tapping each one of the trees, and you just tell them, what do we do first before we tap these trees? And they'll tell you, tobacco, we got to put that out first because we're hurting that tree. You put the tobacco on the ground and by the tree that you tap, to show that you're giving that offering to that tree, and the Great Spirit can see it, that you want this sugar. You have to have 40 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of syrup. It's fun. It's getting out and getting fresh air, plus bringing out the kids when I have the schools come out and to see what we're doing and to show the culture. And this is what I do. I teach this culture in the school and bring them out to show them these trees. Yeah, they learn it in the classroom, but it's better to see it as we go out and do it. These are the students I teach at the Little Black Bear. They're the drum group singers, and each one of them do a different thing at the, carry the wood in, stoke up the fire, help out. They just try to help out as much as they can. Besides their little fights and spats and stuff like typical kids. I talked to one of my elders today, and I asked her, can we sing an honor song for the trees, for the food that he's given us, the sugar and syrup, the sugar cakes to feed the young and the old, because that's what it fed the tree when it's coming in the spring. And then now it's feeding the elders and the young people because it's spring. So we want to honor them, and we'd like to honor the elders too. The maple sugar was very important to the Anishinaabe people because of a long time ago when the people didn't have food, like the deer wasn't as plentiful. So they'd go hungry. And what they had to go back on was the sugar cakes. And the children, that's what they had to suck on, to use, to have that energy to build them back up again. Before the iron pots and the iron spigots, well, they had the sumac, or else the Wisconsin, like I hear, had the cedar stick that they carved into a little ditch or a gully like, and put them into the trees. But they didn't have a drill to drill into the tree, so how could they make the hole? How could they make that sap drain? Well, they took their hatchets and they hit the tree, but they had a rock or a bone hatchet, and they'd hit that tree and make a V, a gutter onto the tree like a V. And then they'd take that bone handle and grind it into the tree only about a half inch. And then they'd pound that spigot in there. And then it'd all go to that spigot into their birch bark basket that was laying on the ground that was sitting there. And it'd all drip in there. The modern day things now, what we do is we tap the tree with a hand auger. We have the hand auger. Well, some people don't put nails in a tree. They lay their cans on the ground and it drips into the ground from the spigot. And I still use the sumac spigots because I like them a lot better than the metal kind, because the metal has a flavor to it. And these don't have a flavor. They're just natural, and it doesn't hurt the tree. Sumac is the ones that the elders told me to use because it don't hurt the tree. It's a wood, and it's soft wood. The middle is soft. It's like a corky substance in the middle. You can either take it and push it out. It's going to take longer time, or take a hot rod and shove it through. It'll burn fast. It's the heart, and it's really soft. You can pick it right out. They use sumac for a lot of different things. Sumac roots is used for medicine. You use it. You take the root and you wash it and you boil it and have somebody drink it if they have diarrhea, and it cures it, real good. They used it as pipe stems because it was easy to go through and easy to carve down to what they wanted. There's a lot of different things, like the tops are made of tea. You can drink it as tea. With two halves. See the corky middle. A long time ago, before they had drills, they split the sumac in half, and they use half. But after we clean this out, we clean this cork-like middle out of there. It's nice and smooth in there. You see that? And then, a long time ago, they didn't have, drill bits and things, so they had to use what they had, like bone knife, to carve into the tree to make a round hole. Is just a half hole to put this part into there, just a little ways in. But they made a V into the tree, and it drained like a trough into this trough of sumac. And it just drained down into there and went into your birch bark basket. And then that basket was laid on the ground and it just dripped in there. And that's how they did it a long time ago. When it runs, it's always during the day. One day I was watching it, and the tree would start running when the sun was out. The clouds came over, the tree just shut off just like a water faucet. That was it. They wouldn't run anymore. And then when the clouds went over and the sun came back out, they turned right back on. They were dripping again. It's the temperature. It's how the temperature is on a tree. Like, another thing is, we tap in the south side early spring. Late spring, we tap on the north side because the tree is warmed up now and both sides are going. It gets warm during the day above 50, and at night it has to drop down at 40 degrees. And every time it does that, it goes and stops, goes and stops. Another thing is, the elders said the best time is at the end, when the sap turns yellow. And that's the best, they said. We're getting closer to the yellow now. I found one tree that was turning yellow already, so it's that time. Another way is look at the top of the trees to look at the buds to see how the buds are. If they're getting big, they'll start turning red, the buds, and that's another way of saying, well, that's done now. We filtered it through the rag to dump it into the vat, you see how many gallons it took to fill that. Well, that's 32-gallon garbage containers that we filled up and we poured in there. This process is boiling it down. Now, this is the long process. We got to get a good hot fire and keep it going. A lot of wood, a lot of dry wood. A lot of people say use maple, but why cut a maple to serve your purpose? We cut the dry wood, like dead pine. It's quick burning, but it's hot. It burns quick. But we get a good hot fire and get boils quick, and it evaporates quicker. So we use mostly dry wood. I haven't used green wood at all to use in our fire. We just use all the dead trees that we can find and bring them in and chop them up, put them in. While it's boiling, it'll just keep evaporating the water, and then the sugar deposits will slowly go down because it's too heavy. It can't evaporate. And that's what we're waiting for now, is to all evaporate all the water to become sugar. They boiled in cast iron kettles. It's a big, round, black cast iron kettle that they used to, it's like a frying pan, cast iron frying pan, but rounded. And they used to boil in that when they could get them. Nowadays they're pretty expensive, $800, so it's hard to get sometimes. Depending how much you have. Sometimes it could take you 24 hours. And that's all night, all day, and you're pretty well tired out by the end of the day. Sometimes the guys that come out here and they like to practice their songs and to sing, to see what, there's nothing else to do. Like, the wood is going, the fire's going hot, it's boiling. And so I tell the guys, well, go do something while we're waiting again before we have to split some more wood. And so they go up and they sing. But it's not always singing, it's always working, always doing something. The kids are never sitting around doing nothing. They like to go out in the woods and run around out there and raise dickens, as they say. After I boil it down and all of the containers are boiled out and it gets down, it will start getting down to a darker color. So then I watch it because the bubbles get smaller. As the bubbles get smaller, it's turning into sugar. So you have to hurry up and douse the fire and then strain it. And then we bring it in the house now. And before we never used to, we just did it and over with. But now we bring it in the house and we strain it a few more times. And then we boil it down the rest of the way. Once it's boiled down, it's a real thick syrup. And then also, we boil it down even further, then you get sugar cookies. This is maple syrup. This is a finished product after it's done. After all that boiling and everything. This is what the elders love. It sticks to the roof of your mouth and then to your tongue. These are the sugar cookies. The sugar cakes, sugar cookies, but it's not the candy. It's more it's more what the elders like if they don't have dentures. They just break apart real easy. Delicious. I love the taste of this. And the kids just love it too. That's why they keep coming asking for it. I want more. Oh, I use it for medicines, to eat, and to give away. A lot of times I don't have none left because I gave it all away. So that's the difference right there, is I hardly ever saved any. And Jim, when he was still here, he'd ask me, "Do you have any more? Why? What'd you do to it?" I ate it. Okay, I'll give you some more. So I give him 2 more jars, and oh, I love it, I love it. And the sugar cookies, when I make the sugar cookies, they're for the elders, because the elders, when they don't have no teeth, well, you could bite these ones, and it doesn't, it's not hard. It's real soft. It just breaks apart for the elders to eat, and that's what they like. And first time I've done them, and they come out that way. And then there's other years that if you've been going on these trees, for 3 years, well, then you're not supposed to be there, and they'll tell you that because your syrup It will be a different taste. Your sugar cookies will turn into molasses, and they won't be no good no more. So that's why we have to watch the trees, how many years you do it. And it's 3 years to tap the trees, 5 years to let them rest. So you'd have to find a new sugar bush again. I think it's important that this continues to go on and to show other people, the younger generation, so they bring it up to their generation, and they'll go on and go on, because otherwise we're gonna lose it. It's not gonna be here no more.
My mother and dad used to go and build a tar paper shack way out in the woods there, and my dad used to tap around about, so there'd be about 1,000 those birch bark baskets. My mother and dad both made those things that would catch the sap, and he made the spouts too. So, because it used to take us almost all day to go from one side to haul the sap and go all the way around. By the time we got to the end, it was almost getting time to quit. And we noticed the others were getting filled up, on days when it ran real good. And then they used to have those, there again they had those big cast iron kettles. They had a few of those cans that they put handles on. They had a great big long fireplace there where they used to carry it in pails, and great big barrels we had there, and they had a cheesecloth there to sift that, so nothing, it'll come out clean. And then they boil it, and after it gets to the syrup stage, they save some syrup, and then again they go right on and make sugar. So I forget now just how many gallons it took to make so much, but I know they used to have a lot of, because my mother used to make birch bark baskets for every one of us when we were small, and she used to have maple sugar in there and maple sugar cakes. All different shapes. She used to use cookie cutters and stuff like that. That she used to make all different shapes. And then they used to make kind of a taffy before they get to the, I think it was between the syrup stage or before it gets to the sugar or something. It gets kind of taffy like that. Was good. You used to put it in cold water and you could eat it. I don't know, I thought that was a lot of fun. Just the idea of being out in the woods there. And we used to camp out during the whole season, because I remember we missed school, I don't know how long, and I don't know what grade I was in, but my older sister, Marion, used to write timetables on, it was good, easy to write on a tar paper, and I studied those, so I wasn't behind in school. Some of the syrup they saved, but the sugar they saved all of that, so they had a lot of sugar. So they used to put it in sweetening things, My mother really used to like sugar.
It was one of the few spices that traditional people had. And I was told that they put maple sugar on fish, they put it on wild rice, they put it on deer meat, just about all the foods that you have. And it's quite a ceremonial food, because it's tied in so much with our culture. When you made the sugar back then, keeping the syrup wasn't a part of it. You didn't keep maple syrup because you had no way of storing it. And so everything was taken down to the sugar form. So it was a real hard process. And nowadays, of course, we keep the syrup, but the sugar was a commodity that was used long ago when people came to your lodge. If you were able to offer them maple sugar for their drink, for their coffee, for instance, or to put on some of the wild rice or the deer meat or whatever, that was really showing a lot of respect to the people, because these were really special people. You had this maple sugar to give because it was so hard to get. Even nowadays at Waswaganing, at this camp that I have, I never sell the maple sugar. I might sell sample bottles of maple syrup, but not the sugar. It was such a sacred food that it was not used, I'm told by many of the traditional people, as something to barter. You gave that away because it was so important that you couldn't put a value on it. So it's a very, very important traditional food source.